Well, good morning, students in Interpreting the Bible, CRST 155. I would like to take you to the passage that you've already worked on, almost all of you, and that's Matthew chapter 5, verse 48, where Jesus says, "You must be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect," or as this version says, "Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." Both translations mean exactly the same thing. And I gave you a project on this to do. And let me explain why I gave you a project. Because I want you to learn how to interpret passages like this. I've mentioned it in class, which seems like this ages ago in another life. But in class, I talked about Mr. Kenneth Trevase, who is getting his doctorate right now in the US, and will come back and teach at FC College, Lord willing. And Kenneth told me again and again and again and again, Dr. Bob, you have to teach them how to interpret a passage in its context. And let me explain why. It's really easy to take a verse like this verse and make it mean what you think it means, because that's what we normally do. You read a verse and you say, oh, this is what it must mean, and just use that. The problem is that you have to take the verse the way Jesus meant it to be understood. I mean, after all, who's the Lord over the universe? Whose word is it? Is it your word or his word? Well, it's his word. Well, then that means if he said it in a certain way, well, I need to understand it the way he meant it. And in this case, verse 48 has that word therefore in it. And that word therefore is there for a reason. It's there because it's saying that verse 48 is explaining or concluding or applying the whole paragraph. Everything that Jesus was saying, really starting all the way up here. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. All right, okay. So Jesus is now taking that and he's going to tell us, how are we supposed to live? Well, he says, you need to live like your Father lives. Here's how your Father lives. He said, so that you may be sons of your Father. I tell you, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he causes the sun to rise in the evil and the good. He sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. For if you love those who love you, well, what reward will you have? And if you greet only your brothers, what are you doing out of the ordinary? Don't Gentiles do the same? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Well, how is my heavenly Father perfect? Well, he causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good. He sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. So the people who hate him, he sends rain to. The people who love him, he sends rain to. You be the same way. That's what verse 48 is saying. This isn't about the law. This isn't saying you need to obey the law perfectly. That's not what it's saying. I mean, maybe other passages say that, but not this passage. Jesus didn't say this to make people obey the law. The Father doesn't obey the law. The Father wrote the law. I'm not saying he disobeys it, but that's irrelevant to him. No. That's not what's going on at all here. What's going on is that the Father gives rain and sun to the just and the unjust, to the good and the bad, to the rebellious and the loving. I mean, if you only give to those who love you, well, you're just like everybody else. If you only love those who love you, you're just like everybody else. That doesn't mean anything. Be like God, he's saying. Give generously to those who are good and give generously to those who hate you. So you see, reading the verse the way it's written doesn't change the meaning at all. It explains the meaning. And if you make this verse say something else, oh, you need to be perfect in how you obey the law, then what you're doing is you are taking Jesus's words, really shouldn't do that, and making Jesus's words your words. You don't have the right to do that. That's not a Christian thing to do. That's not a disciple thing to do. That's a very unwise thing to do, and it's an unloving thing to do. It's an ungodly thing to do. So I hope this will help you to see that reading a passage of the Bible isn't really hard. It isn't really hard at all. All you have to do is figure out what the person who said it meant. That's all you have to do. And the way you figure that out is by looking at the context, the close context, and then the farther away context. And when you do that, it's like, oh, Oh, okay, I get it. I get it. It's talking about loving everybody equally, friends and enemies. I hope this will help you to see what we're doing. Miss you guys. I would love to be together in class. I love class. I love coming to class, and zindagi mushkil hai. God bless you all. If you have any questions at all, please write to me. I want to help in every way to make this the very best experience for you I can. God bless you all. Take care. Have a great week.